What's poppin'? Out here in the woods by myself. Sweaty as fuck. Busting some imaginary ass in basketball, but I just thought I'd come out to the woods and talk about depression and things that I experience and things that I do to help me get out of depression. So it all just starts off in the morning. Let me just start there because that's where your day starts. On the average weekday, wake up around 6:20, snooze my clock as much as I can, even though I know that it'd be good for me to wake up a little bit earlier, collect my thoughts, maybe have a cup of coffee, take a shower, something like that. But I just get so anxious and worried about the day that I try to stay in bed as long as possible because that's my safe space. And one thing that I notice myself doing before the day even starts, if I had a good day yesterday, if I had a bad day yesterday, I always notice myself expecting the worst possible outcome, thinking of all the worst scenarios that can happen, and telling myself that they're true and I can't do anything about it. When in reality, the day is a blank slate. Nothing's happened yet. So I can really manifest my own destiny. But it can be tough sometimes when you've gone through a repeated period of time not trusting yourself, having bad days, doubting yourself. And it can be easy to think that today's just going to be just like that. But it's really important to notice your own thoughts and the stories that you tell yourself, and just to see if they're true or not, and if you can do anything about them. And if you can do something about it, then make your best effort to. And even if you come up short, as long as you knew that you tried, that's really important, because there's so many times where you get down on yourself and you just think that there's nothing you can do about it, and it's really easy to just go to your comfort zone. When I say you, I'm speaking for me, but I'm sure a lot of other people experience what I'm going through, so I'm just going to use general terms like you, blah blah blah. But yeah, it can be easy to go back to your safe space where you feel comfortable and you don't have to deal with any of your problems. And sometimes that's important, when you've had a hard day and you feel like you've done enough, and deep inside you feel like you still haven't done enough and you're still not good enough. You're thinking about things, you're obsessing. Sometimes it's important to just play video games, watch a YouTube video, something that helps you unwind. But if you do get anxious, just know that the situation is only as bad as you make it in your mind. And 9 out of 10 times, maybe 8 out of 10 times, whatever you think is impossible, whatever you think is the most challenging and scary to you, if you just clear your thoughts and just see it for what it is, and not try to have any judgments about it, it's a lot easier. Because, theoretically, I don't even know if there is a logical way to go about this, but when you get anxious, it's a mix of your conscious brain and your unconscious brain, because your conscious brain thinks of what you should be anxious about, or it creates a story, like I said before, which you should be scared about, like talking to someone or anything. I get anxious about the smallest things, like journaling. I got anxious before this video because I hype it up in my mind so much that it has to be perfect, and I have to say everything so eloquently that when it finally happens, I'm like, oh my God, it's finally happening. I have to think of it. I have to say everything I was thinking about, talk about everything perfectly. But yeah, because then when it finally starts, I've already hyped it up in my mind. I've already created such a big deal out of it that I just get to my own head. But that's a mix of, like I said, creating a story, and also your amygdala is the scientific term for it. It's the stem of your brain, the reptilian part, and it's basically your fight or flight response. So when you get anxious, your heart rate increases, your head starts to race, you start twitching, you get all nervous, and that's when it's really important to just realize what's happening with your body and realize that it's not valid that it should be happening. Because for me, a lot of the time when I get anxious, I think that, okay, I'm anxious for a reason. happening for, it doesn't feel good, but it's good that it's happening, because it's like somehow telling me that I need to do something different, when in reality that's not the case at all. So it's really important to be mindful of yourself. And that's one thing that I learned a lot from mindfulness class, meditation, Dharma recovery, is just to focus. It's so cliche, but just to focus on your breath. Not necessarily to control it, but just how you're breathing, how deeply in, how deeply out. Focus on your body, focus on the sounds around you. Feel like what you're sitting on, how solid is it? Are you gonna fall? Are you in any immediate danger? And yeah, just to kind of hear everything and see everything without judgment, just for what it is. Like if you're in a big crowd, it can be easy to think that it's an accumulation. All these people, like let's say for example, when I was acting, when I would be in plays, a lot towards the beginning and the middle, but I got better with it towards the end. I would have this issue where I think a lot of people get stage fright, where they see everybody looking at them and they think that it's one giant entity. Everyone's conscious has collected into one, and they're all judging you the exact same way. They're judging you in the worst possible situation. You're imagining what they're thinking. How do they think I look? How do they think I'm talking? And it can be easy to feed off of that energy instead of just focusing on yourself and what you can do, and not even having any, just do what you can do. And if they judge you, they judge you. But as far as plays go, I don't get nervous anymore, because I know I'm a way better actor than most people out there. Probably the majority, probably everybody out there. So I know that I'm good. But that's easy for me because I have confidence in that. But yeah, it's important to do things that make you uncomfortable too. Not just things that make you uncomfortable just for the sake of, oh, it makes you uncomfortable. Like don't like sexually harass people, or like don't do bad things. Don't do things that are like embarrassing or stupid because it makes you uncomfortable. Do things that you know deep down are good for you, that you're scared to do. Those are the important things to do, because a lot of times with anxiety and depression, it's all about limitations that you put on yourself. And if you show yourself that you can break those limitations and bust out of them and do things that you never thought you could do, then that's where the real process starts. Because that's when you start to grow, you start to develop, you start to really see who you are as a person. So yeah, like I think Buddha said this. I don't know if I'm backtracking or not, but control your mind or it will control you. And that's very true. Because yeah, I mean, we're very judgmental on ourselves. We're definitely our worst enemies, and it's important to be easy on yourself and be your best friend, because that's all you'll ever have in the end. Also, of course, surrounding yourself with people that support you, people that you connect with, etc. But also, it's important to hold yourself to a certain standard and not just let yourself drift and get complacent. Like if you had one good day, you had some good conversations, you were productive, it's important to recognize that and congratulate yourself and appreciate what you did, but also not just get comfortable in that position like, oh, I did something good today, I can just fall back into the same routine, the same pitfalls that I was in before, because that's how you get stuck in a rut. But yeah, a lot of times we're our worst enemies, so just be easy on yourself. If you've been happy in the past, everybody's been happy in the past, and you're sad now, and you think that it can never go back to normal, whatever normal is, that just means, a general sense of contentment, happiness, feeling of yourself. Just because you haven't felt like that in a while, or you haven't felt like that consistently, never count yourself out, ever, because things that made you happy before, that life force, that energy, your soul, it's all still in you. I don't know how many cliches I'm saying in this video, but cliches are cliche for a reason. They're true a lot of the time. Life is a roller coaster, there's ups and downs. Some ups are way more up than other ups, and some downs are way more downs than other downs. But it's important to recognize that that's the way it is. There is suffering in life, and there is a way to minimize or reduce that suffering. And it gets a lot easier the more you go up and down that roller coaster, the more practice you get. And for me, a lot of times, I can really beat myself up because I'll be depressed and I'll feel hopeless, and then I'll feel like I'm making progress and I'll feel like everything's okay, just like that. And then the next day I'll feel like I lost everything and I'm back in the same place that I was before, and I can't do anything about it. But it's important to recognize that, progress is never just a straight line up, you know. It's not like Amazon's profits, you know, it goes up and down, like fucking Blockbuster. That's not a good analogy, because Blockbuster kind of, you know, everyone knows what happened to Blockbuster in the end, so I don't want to compare anybody to Blockbuster. But yeah, there's another phrase that I really like. Everything will be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, then it's not the end. So there's always hope. Sometimes if you have no idea how you're gonna make the changes that you need to make, just have faith, because there's only enough room in your mind. There's not enough room in your mind for faith and fear. So you have to choose if you're going to be fearful or faithful. And that's when you really get the strongest, is when you're faithful and you believe not in some deity, but in your own power, in your own self, in your own ability to manifest and create prosperity. It's important to believe in yourself, even if you don't know how it's going to happen, because anything is possible. You don't know what could happen tomorrow. You don't know what could happen in a week. Think about where you were a year ago. And would you ever expect to be where you are now? Maybe you did, yes, but a lot of things, there's so many variables and unpredictable things that happen in life, so it's important just to keep your mind open. And for me especially, I probably already talked about this, but before I go into a situation, especially social situations, I'll just think about the worst possible scenario. I'll get in my head about it. I'll think that I'll have to be perfect and like the most conversationable person ever, and like, so I'll usually just talk myself out of situations that are fun, but I just make them so bad in my head, and 9 out of 10 times I go out and do it, and it's way better than I could have ever imagined. And it's gotten better since I've gotten older, but that's one thing that I've struggled with a lot recently too, is I'll just isolate myself a lot. And I've always been like that. I've always been a very, just had a brain fart. I don't want to say isolated, but just very comfortable with being with myself a lot and not needing to hang out with people or talk to people. But a lot of the time I get nervous and anxious that I'm not talking to people, and I think that they think that I don't like them, or, you know, I start thinking about how they think about me, and then my mind starts to wander, and then I just create all these stories, like I said, in my head. And yeah, I could go on and on forever, I guess, but it's been 12 and a half minutes, so I guess I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for watching my sexy, ugly ass, and leave a like and a comment and share this with your friends.